Mark Bishop Show. Truly like a box of chocolates. You never know who you're going to meet. From business, lifestyle, and fun. Here's Mark.
And welcome, everybody, to another episode in the Mark Bishop Show. You know, I feel deeply for my friends at PETA, don't you? So let me ask you a question. How did breeding dogs for a certain look reach the point where some breeds are now suffering serious harm? In fact, putting aesthetic interests first is quietly damaging dogs, and how you should not buy into this. People are so used to seeing panting pugs and snorting bulldogs, they think it's normal. It's anything but. Imagine a life of struggling for oxygen with every breath. That's the reality for such dogs. And, you know, like the French and the English bulldogs, Boston Terriers, pugs, and other breathing-impaired breeds. Bibs, they're called, who have been purposely bred to almost have no noses. Their snouts are missing, their faces pushed in, and they've been left with severely distorted airways that make it hard for them to breathe and cause them great discomfort and to pant, snort, and wheeze. So, my question to you, would you like to go through that? Jakob Shaw is the manager of strategic initiatives for People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. Welcome, Jakob. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to talk about this really important issue.
Well, these breeds endure constant discomfort that often goes unnoticed. I mean, many also experience immense pain, suffering, lifelong disabilities, ailments, and even premature death. I mean, you guys do so much good work. What are you championing at with this? How are you going to beat this?
So with most campaigns, the first step is always public awareness. And not too long ago, it would have been completely unthinkable to intentionally breed dogs to have these completely unnatural physical features that cause them to suffer just for the sake of their looks. But that's exactly what we've seen happen with these breathing impaired dogs. So when we talk about breathing impaired dogs, we're referring to French bulldogs, English bulldogs, pugs, Shih Tzus, Boston Terriers. And these are the most popular dogs in the entire country now, and they spend their entire lives panting, wheezing, and gasping for air. So as you can imagine, dogs did not evolve to have these completely unnatural smushed-in faces with practically no snouts, but breeders have intentionally bred them to have these deformed features and sold the public on these extreme cartoonish looks.
It's hell for them, isn't it? I mean, people have got no idea what they go through.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, here in the U.S., we constantly see people posting these videos of dogs snorting and wheezing, and they don't realize that their dogs are struggling to breathe through an obstructed airway. And, as just one example of how much these dogs suffer and how their health is just essentially a ticking time bomb, pugs are 54 times more likely than other dogs to suffer from a debilitating respiratory disease called brachycephalic obstructed airway syndrome, which means that their windpipes and nasal passages are so cramped and constricted that they're constantly fighting just to get one full deep breath.
Yeah.
So that makes it dangerous and even impossible for them to do the most basic things that make a dog's life joyful and fulfilling, like playing with other dogs, chasing a ball, or even something as simple as going for a walk, because they're always struggling to get enough oxygen into their lungs.
Right. Well, you take the French bulldogs as an example. I think their life expectancy goes down to as low as something like 4.5 years. That's it.
Exactly. I mean, part of what's so horrible is that French bulldogs are so chronically unhealthy. They have such horrible breathing issues that even French bulldogs who live, a normal lifespan are still living a horrible quality of life because they're constantly struggling to breathe, which is why we hear them, snort and grunt. But there are also a huge number of French bulldogs who die, shortly after they're born. And that's in part because these dogs' bodies, they've been so deformed by these breeders that they have these huge heads and really narrow hips. So most of these dogs can't even give birth naturally. And 80% of French bulldogs and English bulldogs are birthed via C-section.
Right. Well, You've done a lot in California there. I think it was in Ohio, wasn't it? French bulldogs there, the banning of the breeding of bulldogs, breathing impaired dogs and cats too, who suffer from a lifetime of respiratory issues, along with other chronic ailments. Mention the symptoms again, if you would, Jacob, for the breathing impaired dogs. If anybody, may come across one, what should they look for in the way of symptoms?
So as far as symptoms go, the snorting sounds that we all now associate with French bulldogs and English bulldogs, these are the sounds of a dog trying to breathe through obstructed airways. And for them, just breathing through their nose is like trying to suck in air through a tiny straw. And no dog, no one should have to live like that. So they do, because of these breathing issues and all the other associated health issues, they do require a lot of special care and attention, because breeders have intentionally bred them to have these extreme features and deformed bodies. So the most important thing that all of us can do is keep them out of hot and humid environments, because these dogs aren't able to cool themselves like other dogs can.
Right.
So even in mild weather, they're at risk of heat stroke and heat-related illnesses, because the threshold for them is just so low. So we can take them for walks during the cooler parts of the day, make sure that they don't overexert themselves, and take them for regular veterinary appointments to make sure that any health issues are being caught early on.
Right. There you go. That's some of the things you could do. If you know somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, tell them. If they've got a breathing impaired dog, make life more comfortable for the doggy, for God's sake. Why do breeders continue to breed dogs when we know that they face health issues? This type of thing. What is it, do you think?
Well, breeders keep breeding these suffering dogs for the simple reason that people continue to buy them. So the breeding industry is big business, and they'll always focus on maximizing profits. So as long as there's money to be made in breeding, selling, and showing these chronically unhealthy, suffering dogs, breeders will continue to churn out litter after litter. And, that's why the simplest, easiest solution to this problem is for everyone to stop buying breathing impaired dogs, flat-faced dogs, or really any dogs for that matter. There are millions and millions of sweet adoptable dogs in shelters around the country who are in need of a loving home. So, if you're looking to add a dog to your family, go to the shelter.
Yeah, exactly right. Mine's from a shelter originally. I wish more people would do that. PETA.org, ladies and gentlemen, PETA, PETA.org. Study it, have a good look at it. You'll see the story on this and add some photos. That'll rock your socks a little, might change your mind. Yeah, good work, Jacob. I think I once told people you led the first ban on those glue traps, those horrible things, ensnare small animals indiscriminately. And they caused prolonged suffering, as well as the introduction of both federal and state bills banning the cruel devices. That was a good job. Well done. Jacob Shore is the man.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. And some good news on that is since we last spoke, Culver City in California banned glue traps as well, becoming the third city in the country to do so. So,
jolly good.
The moral arc of the universe is long and it bends towards justice, as they say.
Isn't that fantastic? The third. You got a few to go, eh?
Absolutely.
But still, that's great. So there's enough on PETA.org about this, right? We encourage people to go in their podgies, pajamas with a cup of joe anytime. It's good to go to PETA.org. There's great stories, good pictures, and the reason why. There's good causes. When you think about, the RSPCA and other places that are so desperately trying to get animals adopted and loved, and those that are left without this as well. This is a non-need, to be honest with you. Anyway, is there anything to add, Jacob, to close off? Is there something you'd like to add?
So I would say, just as we're entering this holiday season when everyone will hopefully have more time to spend with their family and friends, to really spread the word about this, because so many people still don't understand that these dogs are suffering for the sake of their looks, that these grunting and wheezing sounds they're making are the sounds of labored breathing. So all of us can help these dogs by telling everyone to never, ever buy one, because that's really the only way we're going to help them, is to make sure that no more of them are intentionally bred into these bodies that don't work, that are destined to cause them pain and suffering throughout their lives.
Exactly. Bibs. All right. So I think the statement is very simple, folks. Always adopt and not shop. Okay. Jakob Shaw, ladies and gentlemen, manager of strategic initiatives for people for the ethical treatment of animals. Thank you, Jakob. Have a happy Christmas.
Thank you, Mark. Happy holidays. Take care.
Join us again for another episode of The Mark Bishop Show. It's a production of Mark Bishop Media.